Welcome to Banking Blueprints. I'm Cameron Smonk, and today I'm joined with Lucy Lee, Financial Services Industry Advisor at Microsoft, and Mun Tham, Industry Advisor at Zafin. To kick us off, I just want to ask you a bit about your experiences in finance and technology, maybe a surprising moment within your journeys.
Sure, I can get us started. So I was actually an engineer by training, but I immigrated to Canada back in 2007, right before the subprime crisis. So I came here as an engineer, lost my job right after, but that whole experience got me really interested in banking, financial services, who are the central bankers. So I went back to school, got my master's, and started working in banks for 15 years thereafter. So from that experience, I learned a few things. Banks are great at making money, but they're not so good at innovating, which is why ultimately I'm now with Zafin, where, as a fintech, we can really drive the change, implement all these new strategies and technology in the banking space and help banks innovate. What about you, Lucy? How was your path?
I've always been in banking and consulting, I think for 17 years before joining Microsoft. And I think just before joining Microsoft, I was already thinking, in commercial corporate banking where I was in, there wasn't a ton of product innovation you could do on the core banking products, especially on the corporate side. And really a lot of the change or innovations are going to come from the digital experience, kind of how the bank deliver these services to their clients. So very interested in a digital banking path, and I wanted to explore more on kind of the frontier technology in banking. So I was able to get this very interesting financial advisory role in Microsoft. And I think what this unexpected turn in this was more because ChatGPT was launched very shortly after I joined Microsoft. And I think within maybe 12 months, Microsoft also launched our own enterprise Microsoft M365 Copilot tool. And we as advisors are expected to know how our clients, the banks, are using these tools. So I got to experiment with these Gen AI tools very quickly and very kind of deep dive into generative AI. So this was just perfect timing, but very unexpected.
Well, that's actually a great segue because in this AI-driven new horizons, things are changing pretty fast. So I wanted to ask, how are digitization, AI, evolving client expectations, and regulatory pressures reshaping corporate banking today?
Okay, I can get us started. Let's talk about client experience first, right? When you think about the corporate clients, the CFOs, the corporate treasurers, personally on the personal front, they're getting all this innovating experience, from the app, from the phone, everything's at their fingertips. Naturally, the expectation when it comes to corporate banks is, information's right there at the right time, fully transparent. And, they almost expect everything to be curated, to have contextual that are relevant to them. So that's one. Client experience has definitely changed. Another one would be regulatory pressure that's driving, like more of a deep dive on product economics. So we are hearing from banks that, the bank boards are really questioning the profitability of each client. Are they making money after all the discounts and all the bespoke deals have been done? So we are seeing the pressure to really drive that relationship economics, that get into that granularity. That's number two. The third one will be technology shift. We see so many, cloud data programs, AI pilots, and real-time projects. So corporate bankers are always, trying to cope with all this landscape kind of changes. But at the same time, while the banks want to innovate, they are trapped because at the very core level, product pricing and billing information are still built on core systems that were launched in the 70s or the 80s. Until they digitize that, centralize it, it's very hard for them to innovate. They'll always come back to this bottleneck, and that's where Zafin comes in. So as a company, we are core agnostic. We are basically the platform to centralize product pricing and billing information for banks. We sit on top of the core. We are the brain that controls the economics of banking activities. So that's how I see, the trends happening and what Zafin can do in this space. What about you, Lucy? What is Microsoft doing?
Well, I think building on what you are seeing, we also see the same kind of trends impacting and triggering the reactions of the corporate banks that we interact with. So I get a lot more questions, especially in the last 12 months, from our clients saying, this must be something AI can solve for. We must be able to automate this process with AI. Why are we? They're questioning, why are we doing things manually? I think it's going to change expectations on the banker side. They don't want to have to rely on their data analytics team to deliver client insights, right? They want all the client data and internal data unified on the same platform. They want to be able to query on their own and create something customized, what they need to know about the client before they interact with the client. And so it's a very much like an on-demand, more liberated access, I would say, for the bankers to be able to understand kind of what the clients may have with the bank, what products or solutions that the banks want to, promote to the clients, and how they will be able to provide more personalized kind of advice to a client. I will also add, I think on the corporate treasurer side, there's also changing demand because they're also being exposed in the treasurers and finance users in FNL. They're being exposed to generative AI tools too. So they're saying, well, if I'm able to interact, through conversational UI with my data, my banks, if they're going to embed into my environment, should be able to do that as well. Give me a different experience. So I do think the corporate treasurers are expecting a very different interaction with the banks. If you look to maybe 5-10 years down, I think embedded finance is going to be completely different. It's no longer just initiating payments in the corporate environment. It's more about how the banks would communicate with their corporate, treasurers through some sort of agentic AI interaction, and the treasurer is able to hold data and complete the action using some AI agent. And then the interaction would, I would say, be less about what the bank's online transaction banking platform can do versus what the treasurer is expected to be able to do in their own environment.
Yeah, like the embedded finance,
Yeah.
the agentic flow. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question of you both. What are the similarities and differences in how Microsoft and Zafin approach co-innovation? Mun, do you want to start?
Actually, Lucy, do you want to go first? I would like to hear what Microsoft is doing first.
So we do a lot of innovation, but I would say among the many flavors of innovation that we do with clients, especially corporate clients, there are kind of two main categories. One is when we tackle some existing patterns, but new use cases in banking. An example of this will be, we know that agentic AI has ability to kind of automate the workflow of ingesting information, creating summaries, and then be able to provide analysis on that information. And you can take these patterns and be able to put this in the credit underwriting process, right? So existing pattern, perhaps some new use cases. The second type of innovation we do is truly co-innovating with clients. So this means that we get into new patterns and new capabilities. And this is when our product group gets involved. And one example of this will be agentic commerce. So we're actively working now with payment processing companies and with very large corporates, as well as working with banks, looking at how would payments happen in conversational AI chatbots that includes ChatGPT and Microsoft's Consumer Copilot. So these kind of inform our product roadmap in this kind of second category of innovation. One, I'll give an example of the innovation that we just completed recently, which is a trade finance proof of concept. We announced this at Cybos, where we work with the International Chamber of Commerce and the bank, Lloyds Bank and HSBC Bank, where we look at digitizing documentary trade from end to end. And that means digitizing from the source system, which is the ERP, all the way to kind of bank ingesting the structured data sets. This is what I will consider kind of existing patterns or existing capability, but a new use case, because we know that using AI will be able to especially using large language model, we'll be able to more accurately extract data from these trade documents. But we want to test if that can truly eliminate paper documents in this process. So what we did, just to give you a little bit of flavor on this, we used Dynamics 365 ERP. We look at how we could take a letter of credit transaction, all the documents and data elements that's required for an exporter to send to the bank. Instead of sending paper documents today, they will be sending structured data from their ERP, package it into kind of data packages in structured data files. And this will all be done with an AI agent. So the AI agent gets instruction from the bank, here are the document that's required. The AI agent triggers alert to the exporter, and this in the exporter's environment, the treasurer will issue instruction to the AI agent and say, yes, you can start pulling the data for these documents. AI agents find the data elements in the ERP systems on their own, and then it will just start creating these data files and do also the validation on behalf of the treasurer. So the treasurer no longer need to see, hey, do I have discrepancy of the same data field across multiple documents? So if it's the buyer address or buyer name that may look different across 3, 4, 5 different trade documents, the AI agent will do the work for the treasurer and will identify any discrepancies. And that all get packaged, be ready to send to the bank. So now in this case, the bank can ingest digital structured data files directly. They no longer need to do OCR. They no longer need to have any sort of manual entry of the data after they received it. And this is kind of our ability to bring the latest technology in Gen AI to ANZ, HSBC, and Lloyd's and say, can we look at this use case and how this could help you, whether it's both from a time-saving perspective and also from kind of the client experience. You know, you're embedding trade finance directly in the client's environment. And I think what Microsoft does that's unique in this co-innovation is that we stretch the capability of the design, right? So we really said, we think that it's no longer just about connectivity, but it's also about how agentic workflow can be embedded in this connectivity. And so that's really kind of a good example of how we co-innovate with our clients.
Amazing. So, the way you talked about is from the corporate client perspective. So I would then, kind of follow on to that. So from the bank's perspective, if the client is using agentic AI flows, and the bank will then need to make sure the product pricing and billing information is agent ready, right? So then back to our value prop, our main value prop as Zafin, which is to become I'm going to call it the economics layer of the bank. We control the brain. This layer keeps the product information, the pricing information, and the billing information. So we centralize it, digitize it, and make it agent ready. So building onto that, what it means for us is when we work with clients, we need to understand in terms of how far along the line they want to innovate on this front. First of all, have they centralized all this economics information first? If they haven't, that would be what we do with them. After that, if they have enough of the product information in the Zafin layer, we'll then look at deploying AI to drive pricing optimization, really understanding the client value, taking the entire relationship into consideration when we price a deal to support the sales team at the bank. And finally, if their end client has agentic workflow, then we want to make sure all this information can be machine readable, for lack of a better word, so that the bank can then embed their services into the client's ERP system. That's how we think about innovating with our client. And we do this through our client advisory board, through our banking leadership summit, through ongoing client conversations. Unlike big tech like Microsoft, we take a more personable approach. I would say we go domain first, banking specific, and then on a client by client basis, we help innovate what they're trying to do, and together we transform banking.
Mun, I just had to ask, is there like a specific example of the Zafin innovation in corporate banking you could share?
Yeah, for sure. So lately we have been getting asked a lot about pricing optimization, and a lot of bankers ask us, hey, can you use AI to help us optimize pricing? The first thing that we need to do on top of centralizing the product information, we also need to centralize all the client relationships. Basically, we need to create the client 360. So with that, we are now getting more into the lending space, trying to bring in lending pricing data into the platform to create this 360 client view. So for one particular client, actually, we are now looking at bringing deposit, liquidity, cash management, and lending data to create that full view for the client so that when the relationship manager is pricing a deal, they have the full picture, they know how much discount to give, and they can also track the commitment thereafter to make sure it remains profitable for the bank.
Great. So I just wanted to get a feeling for how Microsoft and Zafin co-innovate differently. One, obviously, huge technology company, one more boots on the ground.
Yeah, I would love to comment on that because I think just hearing what Mon was saying, think of Microsoft coming in to help with the unified data platform and put the AI layer on it, right? So we provide, we build that infrastructure with the client. Even in the trade finance example, like we build the connector that allows the banks to say, okay, I want to connect to my corporate environment. But once we build the connector, any sort of messaging the bank wants to send to the client could go onto that connector, right? And so what Zafin can do is they can push the pricing information from different banks. So the banks can now communicate pricing to their corporate. So I think Microsoft really focused more on we create the platform for the bank. And then my view is Zafin then comes in with very specific what information should actually be traveling to the from the bank to the clients or within the bank. You're a lot more application specific, whereas we are a lot more more platform infra specific.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Definitely, Microsoft is at the infrastructure level. We help clients configure all this information onto the infrastructure platform layer. If I were to use an airport as an analogy, so Microsoft would be building the runway, building the control tower, but we would run the software to control flight schedules, ticket pricing. That's how we work together to build this airport.
Yeah. I think for us, again, we look for what are the patterns that could apply to multiple workflows. We're less focused on a specific business application or a specific business workflow. We would like to take AI document processing. We could apply that capability front office, middle office, or back office. But if a client comes to us and specifically said, we want to understand an application that our bankers can use to, manipulate or change pricing, instantly, and how will you do that? We will actually refer us, like the clients, to our partners, like Zafin in this case, and say, you will then innovate with Zafin because Zafin's very specifically going to corporate banking pricing platform.
Okay, and to end us off, I wanted to ask a rapid fire, big take kind of question. What is your one bold prediction for the future of corporate banking?
I think, and it's a near-term prediction for corporate banking, is that a lot of modernization that they will be doing, this hollowing out the core, is going to take a very specific Gen AI flavor in that, meaning that the banks should be looking for how their application that they're replacing could embed AI capabilities already. And so that will give them a leapfrogging effect that they don't have to kind of build in increments. But if you're going to acquire a new platform, might as well acquire and replace it with a platform that already gives you that AI embedded capabilities in it.
Great. And one?
Yeah, building on to that, I definitely think data and AI are table stakes. So, having data models, having dashboards, co-pilots will just become standard BAU. But the winners will not be just the most digitized or the most AI enabled. It's really about the banks that can bring transparency to this economic layer, make it programmable, make it trustworthy for both people and machines. So they need to make sure the humans can read it, but also the AI agents can act on it.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for joining us at Banking Blueprints. My name is Cameron Smonk. Thanks for watching.